All right, let's get right into it. Every single day, you've got thousands of huge ships crisscrossing our oceans. They're carrying pretty much everything we use, from oil to our smartphones. But how do we actually know they're safe? What's stopping a rusty, poorly run ship from causing a total disaster? Well, there's this really clever system in place that works kind of like a credit score for ships, and it's all about keeping our seas and our stuff safe. So let's just start with that simple question. What if ships had a credit score? You know, a single number that could tell you right away if a vessel is a top-notch, reliable ship, or if it's a floating accident waiting to happen.
Well, it turns out they basically do. It's called the new inspection regime, or NIR for short. The easiest way to think of it is like a global report card for every ship. It's this smart, risk-based system that grades them on safety and performance. And that grade, it decides exactly how often they get a visit from inspectors.
So how does this whole credit score for ships thing actually work? Let's peel back the layers and see how the system sorts every single vessel out there.
Every ship is given what's known as a Ship Risk Profile, or SRP. It slots them into one of three really simple buckets. You've got your best-in-class, the low-risk ships, in green. Then you've got the average Joes, the standard risk ships, in yellow. And finally, you have the ones that need the closest watch, the high-risk ships, flagged in red. Super straightforward.
But here is the absolute key to the whole system. This isn't some grade they get once and it sticks. A ship's risk profile is recalculated every single day. It's a live score constantly being updated with new info. So a really good ship could have a bad run and see its score drop. And a risky one, well, they have a chance to clean up their act and improve.
Okay, so what exactly goes into calculating the score? Let's take a look at how a ship's risk profile is actually built, from its permanent stats to its recent behavior on the water.
The system really boils it down to two main areas. First, you have the ship's permanent record. These are the generic things, right? What kind of ship is it? How old is it? What country's flag is it flying? And importantly, what's the safety record of the company that runs it? Then on the other side, you've got its recent behavior. This is all about performance. Specifically, how many problems or deficiencies have been found, and how many times has it been detained in the last 3 years?
Let's make this real. So under the generic stuff, imagine you've got an oil tanker that's over 12 years old. It's flying a flag from a country on the gray list, which isn't great, and it's run by a company with a shaky safety history. Right off the bat, it's racking up risk points. Then the historic part kicks in. If that same ship has been detained by port authorities multiple times in the last 3 years, well, its risk score is going to skyrocket into the red zone.
All right, so a ship has its score, who cares, right? What does it actually mean? Well, this is where the rubber meets the road. A good score literally buys you freedom out on the seas. Let's check out the inspection timetable.
If you run a low-risk ship, you get rewarded, big time. You can go up to 36 months, that's 3 full years, between mandatory inspections. It's the system's way of saying, hey, we trust you, keep up the amazing work.
For your standard risk ships, that window shrinks quite a bit. They have to get inspected at least once every 12 months. This is kind of the baseline for most of the ships sailing around the world.
But for a high-risk ship, the leash is incredibly short. They have to face an inspection every 6 months. No ifs, ands, or buts. There is just no place to hide, which makes sure that these potentially dangerous vessels are getting checked constantly.
And the system does not mess around. If a ship sails into port and its inspection window is already closed, it gets flagged as Priority I. That means an inspection is absolutely mandatory. The ship cannot go anywhere until it's been checked. Now, if it shows up while it's still inside that window, it's Priority II, and the port authorities can decide whether to inspect it or not.
So what happens when those inspectors actually step on board? You can think of it as the big audit on the high seas. This is where they check to see if the ship's actual condition is as good as its paperwork claims it is.
The whole process usually kicks off with an initial inspection. You know, a general walkthrough, checking the ship's certificates, taking a look at the bridge and the engine room. But if an inspector sees something that makes them suspicious, what they call clear grounds for concern, like broken safety gear or a totally exhausted crew, that triggers a much more detailed inspection. And for all those high-risk ships we talked about, they automatically get the full treatment, an expanded, deep dive audit of the entire vessel.
This leads us to the really important part. What happens when a ship actually fails its audit? We're not talking about a little slap on the wrist here. The consequences are serious. It's like getting a report card so bad, you get grounded indefinitely.
A ship can be detained if inspectors find problems so serious that the vessel is considered, and I'm going to quote the official language here,
unfit to proceed, or pose an unreasonable risk to persons, property, or the environment. That right there is the line in the sand.
So what even is a detention? Honestly, the best way to wrap your head around it is to imagine your bank account being completely frozen. The ship is legally trapped. It cannot leave the port until every single one of those critical violations is fixed and rechecked. And you better believe, every day it's just sitting there, it's losing thousands and thousands of dollars.
But believe it or not, it can get much, much worse than that. For ships that are repeat offenders, there's an ultimate penalty: getting banned from ever entering the port again.
And the system lays out a very clear path to getting kicked out. A first ban might last for 3 months. If it happens again, the ban jumps to 12 months. A third time, we're talking 24 months. And after that, the very next detention can trigger a permanent ban. That's it. No more chances.
This is the end of the line, the ultimate penalty. To stick with our analogy, this is exactly like having your bank account closed for good. You are just not welcome to do business in these ports anymore. Ever.
You know, this new inspection regime is such a powerful example of using data to manage risk and to reward quality. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? In an age of AI and predictive analytics, what's next? How else could we use all this data to predict and prevent disasters at sea before they even have a chance to happen?